Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tony's back. I'm alone. I'm all alone this time. I wanted to acknowledge my buddy Ron, who I'm sure actually, if I keep this going, we'll cross paths again in the podcasting world. But he's got his own podcast going on now with Pro Sports Extra. No, nothing personal between us. Just the way our schedules worked out, working different hours. We're not really able to get together consistently at the same time, but hopefully we work something out in the future. And give him a listen on the Pro Sports Extra. He's on blogtalkradio.com/Pro Sports Extra podcast. And in the meantime, I got the Liberty Shaman Network going, and it's going to be a one-man show without the video. And I'm just sitting here in my lovely apartment here with my dog. So she'll keep us company, and I'll bring her in for expert advice when I'm really unclear on a subject, and that should help us out tremendously. But in the meantime, you'll just hear one voice. So hopefully you could tolerate this one voice for the duration of the podcast. If not, I don't really want to know what to tell you. Go fuck yourself. Put on something else. And, whatever. But in the meantime, I'll drive on, and I'm looking for, typically weekly or bi-weekly, or however we'll do it. But it should be clear, and I hope you love it. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about some shit that happened over the weekend. UFC 223, what a fucking disaster leading to the event, though. With all things considered, it was definitely a great event. The championship, the main event, we had two championships, but the main event at the end, it was a little bit kind of disappointing. Habib didn't finish him off, but the guy won 50-44, I think, on all three scorecards. So definitely a dominating performance, and Habib looked like he always does. He stood up a little bit in the fourth round and was just throwing jabs. But then I was listening to Ariel Helwani talking to Habib's coach. I can't think of his name right now. But they said that after the fight, they found out that Ally Quinta was actually doing that on purpose, standing up like that to try to get Habib into a stand-up fight so he could potentially land a big bomb, which makes total sense. If you don't want to wrestle with Habib, I'd rather be taking jabs than getting mauled by him like a fucking grizzly bear. Because the guy grew up, I must have said this like a million times leading up to the fight last week to everybody that I spoke to, but the guy grew up wrestling bears. If you go on YouTube and you type in Habib Nurmagomedov bears, you will see videos of Habib when he's 9 years old wrestling bears with his family, having the bear like on a giant bear leash thing. I don't know how to describe it, but the guy grew up. The guy is literally designed to maul. He grew up avoiding maulings by bears on a regular basis. So, I don't know if anybody is ever going to be able to out-grapple him. I don't know if Conor McGregor can. Actually, very unlikely Conor McGregor will be able to out-grapple him. But disappointing what happened with McGregor. If you don't know, you've been living under a rock, but McGregor was taking metal garbage cans, a dolly, guardrail, ended up breaking the window of the UFC bus, getting it in Ray Borg and Michael Chies's eyes. They had to be dropped from the card. Just a fucking crazy turn of events from what was supposed to be, a pretty straightforward media week last week. And then it kind of makes the rest of his antics, he kind of had fun. They were like lighthearted when he gets on, curses, and he does whatever it is he does, but it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Everything else kind of looks like makes him look lesser and light. which is unfortunate because I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. I used to put on an Irish accent all of last year leading up to the main event with Floyd Money Mayweather. He'll do nothing. He'll do absolutely fucking nothing. But it sucks, and I hope hopefully they're able to turn it around, and hopefully he gets a little humbled. The guy needs to get you gotta be a little humbled. But he's 29 years of age, and he's got all the money in the fucking world. So what do you really want from the guy? It's a crazy situation to be in. It's a situation that very few people can relate to, and very few people handle well. So, you expect a lot from these athletes when they're that. That's when I'm 29. So what the fuck do I know? But I never had the world in my hands the way McGregor does. Hopefully within 3 or 4 weeks I'll have, I'll know what McGregor is going through. 3-4 weeks. I think I can make it happen. If you guys keep sharing and spreading the love on this podcast, who the fuck knows? But in the meantime, I'm just a regular person, and I'm waiting for all these advertisements to come in. But what do you want from the fucking guy? Guys, you gave him the world, and you can't give him the world and expect him to handle the world. Nobody really handles that much success well. I guess that makes sense. But then there was all these rumors about McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather with 4-ounce gloves in a cage, but the only thing being allowed is clinching. What would that even be? How would that even make sense? I can't imagine that going on in the UFC promoting this event. Dana White said it's bullshit, and that leads me to believe that it's likely bullshit as well. But it's crazy how these rumors could just take off if, one legitimate person with a check mark next to his name on Twitter says, hey, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be McGregor and Mayweather in a cage. But 4-ounce gloves and clinching. If it did happen, it would be an interesting fight. But I can't imagine the contract being drawn up for that. And it doesn't even make sense if it would be an MMA fight, because how would that count on? Would that be Mayweather's MMA debut with the modified rules? It would have to be an exhibition because there's no kicks, there's no takedowns, there's no grappling. It really doesn't it's no elbows, no knees, no nothing. Besides, it's just like a boxing match with clinching, because MMA clinching that a little bit to be able to hold on more, and McGregor's a lot bigger, and that could give him an advantage. But there's no way. Well, I don't fucking know. What do I know? I don't know shit. I guess if there's enough money involved, you can make anything happen. So maybe if there's enough money involved with all the parties, they could pass it off as an MMA fight, because it's definitely not a boxing fight. Yeah, with the gloves and shit. There's no way that. I don't know. Who the fuck knows what it would count as? I think Mayweather's going to leave his record as 50-0 in boxing, not dare touch that. And if he does do some crazy fight like this with McGregor, then it would probably have to count as an MMA fight, because there's no way he'll risk something new with the blemish on his boxing record. But it would be, a big event, and I think McGregor's going to have to do something I don't know if that exactly, but he's definitely have to fight again. And I thought it was very interesting to hear what Dana White said following the McGregor antics after he got arrested and turned himself in and everything. Do you want to be in the business of Conor McGregor right now? And it's a fair point, because he made that Burger King commercial where he had those sponsorships, and he said, I think he said, thank you to Tony and Khabib, because you guys just paid for Conor Jr.'s college fund in the commercial. So he's talking about making money, but that money pit's going to dry up, and he's definitely going to lose sponsorships, and he's definitely going to need to fight again, I imagine, if he is losing his money tree from everywhere else, because he was a very highly marketable figure. But now, who the fuck knows? I'm sure he could still get sponsorships, but at the rate it looks like he's spending, where if he has enough money to put together a posse of 20-something dudes, get them on a plane and drive them and fly them across the fucking ocean to go take on Khabib and his posse. You know, if you want to keep doing shit like that, you got to keep bringing in a lot of money. And I think the best way he could bring in the most money has got to be through fighting. All these guys, you know, it seems like they go through money really fucking easy. Well, if you never had that much, you know, it could be fucking overwhelming. So hopefully, you know, we would like to see him fight again. That's what everybody, sponsorships or not, people are in the market to see McGregor fight again. And I think the Khabib fight, it's two different extremes. It's like the ultimate striker in the UFC against the ultimate grappler in the UFC. And I think that's the fight that we need to happen. But I also think Tony Ferguson needs to get in, you know, that people are kind of forgetting about him being it's like a three-headed monster in that division. And there's other guys too. Nate Diaz is a wild card, and Eddie Alvarez had a big victory in his last fight. But you know, really, it's a three-headed monster with Khabib, Tony, and McGregor, and none of them have fought each other, which is so crazy, and it's a shame, because Khabib and Tony is an interesting fight because Tony's like a scrambler, fights off his back, and is like a perfect contrast to fight Khabib. And the three of them, they got to figure it out. We got to call Vince McMahon up. We got to put them in a steel cage, and we got to get the three of them in the ring at the same time. And we got to see who gets out of the cage first. In the UFC, they're locking in the cage. I say we call Vince McMahon. We put the three of them in the cage, and we see who gets out first. I don't know. Actually, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we'll actually determine who the best fighter is if we did that. But whatever. We'll call Vince McMahon up. 4-ounce gloves, Mayweather, McGregor, in a steel cage. Ferguson, Khabib, and McGregor. We'll see what happens. But then Khabib said he wants fucking Georges St. Pierre at 155. Yeah, I don't think St. Pierre ever fucking GSP. He never fought at 155, and he's gonna come back and he just fought at 185. He's gonna come back against Khabib and fight at 155. That's like a totally different weight cut. Maybe a catchweight bout between the two of them at like 165 or some shit, because he's typically a welterweight. But I don't think he's going down to 155. And that guy's very calculated. He's only going to come back if the matchup makes sense for him. I would see him, I think there's more of a chance of him coming at 170 and fighting Tyron Woodley. But I don't think he's going back to 185 again, fighting the winner of Whitaker and Romero. I think those two guys. And by the way, the most underrated Instagram post of the week last week was Romero and Whitaker put something up, and it said, "Why is there only one bus?" And they were together smiling, and these guys are fighting each other in like 6 weeks. And it was kind of like, it was nice to see something like that after watching the ugliness that took place between, the lightweight kings there, McGregor and Khabib, and fucking flying across the world literally flew across the world because Khabib put his arm around Artem Lobov to tell him to stop talking about him. McGregor saw that, got on a plane this is just so crazy. Imagine being in a situation where you see your buddy getting confronted by a guy that is like your rival, and then saying, "What the fuck is this?" and putting together a posse and flying across the world to confront the guy when it didn't even look like, I mean, shit like that happens all the time with fighters. McGregor's been in shit. He had that thing with Uriah Faber years ago where they kind of like got into a little scuffle. That happens on The Ultimate Fighter all the fucking time. He got something with Cody Garbrandt. And never something like this, though. And he threw it at the bus filled with fighters. And like that was the best plan he came up with. It just seems so crazy. But again, what do I know? I don't know shit. I'm just some fucking guy talking to a microphone, hoping that this gets through to some of you fucking people out there. Anyway, other good news. Ronda Rousey in the WWE probably had the match of the night at WrestleMania. And I think what's very underrated in wrestling, you could be very technical, you could be high flying, but when you have intensity, when you have like that rare, bona fide, intensity that people could just feed off and get people's heart rate going, when you start doing shit at like a high impact or high level or whatever, that's really, I think, one of the most underrated intangibles when it comes to professional wrestling. Because when you look at a guy like Goldberg, who was very limited in his skill set, but when he came into the ring, it was like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then he had his traps and he was screaming and the crowd was feeding off of it, and he was able to connect with people, and he looks into the crowd. That, I think, is something that you could really parlay into like a great career in wrestling. And Ronda Rousey kind of like did that. She was kind of like the female version of that with the way she was able to dominate Stephanie McMahon, and she picked up Triple H, and you could kind of see if you watch it, Triple H kind of like hopped up on her back a little bit there, but she was able to hold him, and she looked, and it's so credible and it's believable because of the history that Ronda Rousey has being a former UFC champion. Albeit the last two fights, she kind of, it was one-sided against her, especially with Amanda Nunes. But, who else has that much credibility on the female side of the UFC roster? There's nobody. And hopefully she's able to continue to thrive in that division and eventually, main event wrestling, not main event, but, big event, and it could be a, co-main event of WrestleMania would be her and Charlotte Flair. Because Charlotte Flair is still the champion there. And now it kind of makes sense why Charlotte Flair went to the SmackDown brand, because Raw is definitely the A brand, but I think they're planning on bringing Charlotte over to Raw later on in the year, because SmackDown kind of needed talent, and Raw knew that they were going to get Ronda Rousey. And she's as big as, definitely probably the biggest draw of all the female wrestlers that there are now. And so it would be pretty cool to see Charlotte come over later in the year, and that kind of be like the big event, the big female match at WrestleMania next year. But, because Charlotte's awesome, and hopefully Ronda continues to develop more of her skills, because she's definitely got the intensity. And I think it was a great match. And then you saw Roman Reigns get defeated by Brock Lesnar, which was a complete shocker. It worked out perfectly, because Dana White just went on and said that Brock Lesnar is going to come back to the UFC, and then so everybody's expecting him to his WWE contract to expire right after WrestleMania. So of course they're going to put the strap on Roman Reigns. They've been building Roman Reigns up. Everybody's kind of like very mixed feelings about it. He's got intensity, but people just aren't buying it as much. And it's going to be disappointing when you get Roman Reigns as the champion. Everybody knows it. And then, bam, Brock Lesnar, 1, 2, 3 on his fifth fucking F5. When everybody's like, there's no way. 4 F5s. Why would he pin him on the fifth one? And it works out that Brock Lesnar extends his WWE contract, keeps the title. And now people are left wondering if he's going to fight in the fucking UFC after Dana White just said it was possible that he fights the winner of Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic, which is, by the way, is going to be like, that might be, well, depending what goes on at Madison Square Garden later in the year, but that's like a huge fucking fight. Stipe and Cormier. So Brock Lesnar could be fighting for the two most prestigious titles in combat sports, with the heavyweight championship in the UFC, and he's already the universal champion in the WWE. Of course, I'm kidding around, because the WWE title really doesn't count as a combat sports title, but it looks pretty cool. And imagine if he comes out to the UFC wearing the WWE title. That would be a sight, but that's probably not going to happen. But those are two. Yeah, that would be. It would be cool. For me being a fan of both of them, people on the UFC side, the more UFC fans would probably think of it as an insult for him to come out with the WWE title. But as a fanboy of both of them, I think it would be pretty funny. And who knows? Maybe, of course, Dana White and Vince McMahon have to have some type of cooperation going on behind the scenes on some level, especially if Brock fought in the UFC while he was under contract with WWE 2 years ago. Was that 2016? When he fought against Mark Hunt? Yeah, I think it was 2016. So it would be interesting to see, and it's something to pay attention to going forward. That would be, it's a unique circumstance, and Brock Lesnar being the big draw that he is for both, he kind of has that much power and that much pull, and, anybody would want to be in that circumstance, want to be in that situation. So yeah, I want to circle back to one thing real fast about McGregor and Nurmagomedov. There's a page on Instagram, and I'm going to share this on the Liberty Shaman Network, but Slav, SLAV, Boxing, BOXING, Bros, BROS, they put an awesome video, kind of like a trailer that would, a trailer for Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. So it looks really cool, and it kind of gets you hyped up for the fight. And you could definitely see just in that trailer the two contrasting styles. All the highlights are McGregor standing up, and all the Khabib highlights are Khabib mauling somebody on the ground. So, it definitely got me amped up, and I think that's the fight. As long as the Mayweather shit is all bullshit, you got to make Conor Khabib, Tony Ferguson gets the winner, and then you have your lightweight champion. I think it's as simple as that, because Tony, he tripped on some fucking wires. So it kind of sucks of what happened with Ferguson, and I thought it was bullshit that he gets stripped a little bit, but you'll make up for it if you let him fight the winner of Khabib Conor. I think that's got to be the next fight. All right. Well, let's see. Some things I want to talk about. Some shit that happened in life recently. Some life observations, more or less. Commuting to the city every day. It just, I look at everybody. I was in that fucking vagina-looking thing that they have at the World Trade Center. What is it, the obelisk? No, the Oculus. The Oculus, whatever the fucking thing's called. Yeah, the big, the Oculus. Everybody, I get off the PAD train because I come in from Jersey, and they got the fuck. It looks like everybody's like ants. Everybody looks like ants, just like serving whatever queen fucking ant there is. And it's just, it's just frustrating. I don't know if it's frustrating or what, but everybody looks miserable. But that's what you got to do. You got to make the dollar to pay the rent. And that's what everybody wants to do. But, does this make the most sense? If everybody going there, not everybody gets there at the same fucking time. Everybody gets off the train around 8:30. This way you give yourself 30 minutes to get to your 9-to-5 job. And then you get out, and then you go back as an ant at 5 o'clock. You get to the Oculus like 5:30, and then you take the train back home. And it's just, what the, I don't know if I could fucking keep up with this 9-to-5 shit, 'cause I feel like I'm going to lose my mind there. But who the fuck knows? What do I know? I don't know shit. This is why we need more sponsors, so I could sit here, watch events, and then talk to people about them. And hopefully you want to keep coming back for more of this fucking garbage. So, yeah. That's what I think. And I don't know if this makes sense. I don't even know if I'm going to put that into the podcast, because it's just like complaining about people looking like ants. But whatever. Any other big events? I keep seeing my friends on Facebook. They're talking about nuclear fucking... Isn't it crazy that two guys could disagree with each other so much so they could kill millions of other people because they have access to some fucking buttons that the rest of us don't? My upstairs neighbors are from are Russian, and we get along fine. And I'm pretty sure if most Americans got together with most Russians and just hung out, we'd all get along fine. But because a couple of pricks have some ego issues and they get hard-ons for, lusting for power or whatever, they could put the rest of us at risk because, they have some power trips that they want to talk about. They want to blow up other people with technological advances that they had nothing to do with, putting other people at risk while they'll be put into a safe place somewhere. Is this like, the world is so connected, yet it's so, like, the political systems that we have in place are so fucking archaic. There's no way to bring each other. We could bring each other together. We could go on a fucking app and, jerk off to each other over FaceTime or whatever. Well, I don't know. That sounded a little ridiculous. I don't know if you would use FaceTime. Maybe Skype. Or, chat roulette or some shit. But, the bottom line is you get in touch with people from across the world at the click of a button. But you got these egomaniacs that are in control of the governments and in control of the nuclear arsenals and in control of the most advanced military powers the world's ever seen. And because they want to have a big dick competition, they could really hit some buttons and just fucking exterminate us all, which is ridiculous. And this is why, it goes back to us feeling like ants. We're like ants, and they got these pricks that are like the big fucking queen ants, but they didn't really do anything to get they won a popularity contest. And it's just ridiculous. We need new political systems, because with the systems in place, look, I love the Constitution. I'm a libertarian, big freedom, Bill of Rights person or whatever. But it's really time we turned over these archaic systems in place that were designed when we used to have to ride horses, across the country to send a letter to get there in 3 days or whatever the fuck it was. I don't know how. It was maybe been 3 days with the Pony Express. But now we got, the PowerPoint and the FaceTime and the Skype and the chat roulette and, the OK Cupid, the Plenty of Fish, the Plenty of Cribs, and all that shit. So, we need to use this stuff more rather than, I don't even know how this relates to the political structure, but it does in some weird way. And I'm hoping somebody out there will connect the dots for me. But it just goes back to, us being okay with each other. But because a couple of douchebags in power aren't, it puts it, they want to put everybody else in risk. Put yourselves at risk. Why don't we call Vince McMahon? We'll get you guys some 4-ounce gloves, lock he's in a cage, and we'll see who comes out of it. And unfortunately, it's not going to be Trump because, Putin's like a fucking... I think he's like a black belt in judo or some shit. But it doesn't matter because it's all stupid. These guys, they're not the smartest people. The smartest people are guys like, it's probably like, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Elon Musk, people from all different backgrounds. Elon Musk had a great comeback against Trump, who said, great program with the SpaceX, when Musk sent his car into, I don't know if it was for that, but he said, great program. SpaceX is pure American ingenuity. And Elon Musk was like, I'm South African. All of the world is contributing to all the world's technological advances. And the only people that can really keep us from advancing all the way are the people in power, which is so self-defeating and it's so archaic. And there's really no need for the type of governments that we have in place. And I'm saying it. And if you don't like it, turn off your station. No, well, that's it. That's a quick, that's my first one doing by myself. Quick, should be about 30 minutes by the time I'm done rambling at the end of this. But check me out, Liberty Shaman Network. Check out my boy Ron too. Wish him the best. Liberty Shaman Network at gmail.com. Liberty Shaman Network on Instagram at Tony Liberty_LSN is my personal one. So I got 2 of them now, and the network is just me. Maybe I should just use one of them. But if I use one, it would be at Liberty Shaman Network. And then hit me an email, poke me on Facebook, hit me up on your sister's Excel, your mother's PowerPoint. That's all I got. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm out here. Oh, wait. It's not just a podcast. It's a network.